Hey y'all, it's Whiskey and welcome to the Hot Toddy. This week we are talking about the power of feedback. So I'm a retired teacher. I don't know how many of you know that. I'm a retired elementary school teacher, and I can tell you right now that when that little PA system goes off and they ask a teacher to go to the principal's office, it feels no different than when you were in 5th grade and somebody walks in and says, oh, so-and-so, you need to go to the principal's office, right? Your gut sinks, your heart starts pounding, your hands start sweating. Even if you can't figure out what you did wrong, it's a terrifying experience, right? And why is that? Because we've been conditioned that feedback from an authority figure or from somebody else is almost always going to be negative, right? We are conditioned that feedback is a bad thing. And we're going to talk about that today. So ask yourself, how would your life have changed in some form or fashion if one day somebody walked up to you and just randomly gave you positive feedback? Like, hey, really like what you're doing there, or just for no reason other than to do it. What if they did it in front of others? And sometimes some people, this might happen. Like, you might genuinely have good people that give you good feedback, right? But for the most part in our society, that's not what happens with feedback. So, do you ever proactively ask for feedback? Like, do we go to other people and ask for feedback? And do we accept what they might see? Do we understand that feedback they're giving us is from their lens and their truth and their perception or perspective of what you're asking about, right? And they may not see or understand your motivation or what you saw behind it, correct? So to go and to ask for feedback from somebody and to genuinely accept it. And there's actually something else about this too. Like, it kind of gets on my nerves. I got to thinking about this earlier. Like, if somebody says, well, they just can't take constructive criticism. Constructive criticism, okay? That's just saying that somebody, it more or less, somebody's judging you and giving you feedback and telling you that you have to accept it, or else you're just not being a gracious person because you didn't take their constructive criticism. And I feel like that is literally that concept even exists because we don't give people positive. We don't say, well, isn't it great she took your positive criticism? Why is the word criticism even there, right? Like, it's feedback, and it's generally negative feedback, which is why the word criticism's even there. Why don't we think positive feedback is constructive? Why doesn't our society treat it that way? I have so many questions, obviously, about feedback. So, and really, when is the last time you have given someone else positive feedback? Like, that feedback loop, it's really, really important. It's what we gauge the room by, especially if you're empathic, right? It's the feedback of the room. It's the feedback and the feeling of everything that is going on in your world. We literally survive as empaths and intuitives on feedback. And a lot of times we're taught and trained to do that by the negative side of it, not the positive. So that's why feedback is very, very important to us. So if we want the world to have more positive feedback, we need to give more positive feedback. And there's no reason to pull somebody to the back of the room or to the principal's office or anything like that to give positive feedback, right? We talk all the time about even training dogs, like positive reinforcement training. Give them treats, give them good boys, and pat them on the heads, right? It's not condescending, but it's the same concept. We humans love and function on positive feedback. So let's make a concerted, conscious, intentional effort to live our lives with giving other people more positive feedback and see if it doesn't loop back to us. All right. And here's one. And do you understand that you still have a choice when somebody gives you feedback? Either whether it's negative or feedback, what you choose to do with it is still your choice. You can either accept what they say and move on and maybe make a change, Or you can say, no, I'm good with that. I don't need to change what I'm doing because this is me, and that just might be their lens or their perspective, right? Feedback is actually, we look at it like it's the simple thing, and it's really not, because it's everybody's perceptions and mirroring and all these things and projections just all bouncing off of each other. Sometimes we ask for it, sometimes we don't. So we have to figure out if we are going to just observe what's going on with that feedback, if we're going to react, if we're going to make a step to change, if we're going to accept it and maybe say, you know what, I didn't see it that way. I didn't see it. You cannot see it how somebody else sees it to you, maybe, unless they tell you. So it's very, very important to maybe even just ask and not get, dare I say, butthurt if they tell you something that you didn't want to hear or you weren't expecting about yourself. And for example, I'm actually in a documentary. I'm signed up in a documentary right now where I'm interviewed every month about my journey that I'm on now with a bunch of other people. And at the end of the year, they're going to close it out and do edits. And it's going to come out in this documentary that none of us know how someone else is going to see or perceive or give a visual feedback for the rest of the world to see about who we are, right? And for some people, that might be terrifying. For me, I think it's awesome. Like, I can't wait to see how somebody else sees me and edits me to portray what they see. Did that make sense? I hope that made sense. So anyway, go out there, ask somebody, maybe ask them that question. Dude, if you were gonna do a documentary about me today, what would it look like? What kind of feedback would you give in that documentary? See what they say, you might be surprised, right? And don't be afraid of the negative stuff, because negative stuff is actually where we grow to, right? I love y'all. We gotta see. I love y'all, and we're gonna let it go. Keep on rocking.